Harriet the Spy. Time had all but skipped for Harriet. She had infiltrated another 3 groups, including basic bitch work in 2 gangs. One small time, the other one not so much. She suspected the Daughters of Doom to be connected to a lot more than it claimed to be, but she was just a driver and wasn't yet trusted enough to really be told the good stuff. And none of her contacts in the gang knew much more than the general movements and all the different drugs and illegal gun modifications being made to the weapons. There was a hint of something more. The boss answered to a higher boss that occasionally had them do strange things. Still had to smoke it out, but the boss could barely remember her name at this point, and while that was a great thing for infiltration, it was pretty shit for being trusted with sensitive information. The other gang was just a bunch of dumb teen girls posing on street corners. They generally went around and hijacked cars before bringing them to the chop shop. Again, it was owned by a higher-up she was trying to sniff out and needed a lot more time to get that level of trust. Her third new group was actually a full-on religion. The Etheric Order was basically an animistic order that believed all cultures somehow had spirits, as in a spiritual incarnation of Canadian or American or centrist spoiled idiot. It was really weird, but straight-up anal retentive when it came to cataloging as many possible cultures and keeping them all straight by making up representations of them. It was really freaking weird, but it was a treasure trove of information. Sure, it only gave her the stereotypes, but such things were not born in vacuums and could say a lot. But now she's once again Staff Sergeant Ina Yoko and keeping a measured pace behind the senile but deadly General Methuselah Archimedes Kronos and right next to eager and inexperienced Private William Stream. A bit of debate and their faces had a vague resemblance to each other. The story was unchanged, but first impressions would make people think they were siblings, if not mother and child. Being informed of this while practicing for their roles had broken her character, and they had to practice again. The second time Herbert had broken, and they had all but taken turns after that. All told, the exercise had taken several hours. Thankfully, this would be a simple interrogation. No fuss, no muss. Lieutenant Commander Jeremiah Escobar Bridger has had a rather exciting life of late. From her understanding of the situation, after the man had tried his hand at business and romance simultaneously to find enormous success, there was an attempted robbery. The robbers bit off so much more than they could chew that they needed closed casket funerals. Unfortunately, it appeared that one or perhaps several of them had a higher-ranking and fairly vengeful family member leading to an attack earlier today. The good lieutenant had managed to subvert the main muscle of the group, possibly seduce as well, and only a few prisoners were brought in. This one had apparently been patched up by the lieutenant commander after he had nearly punched through her throat. A quick hospital stay, and apparently she would need a light touch for the interrogation. According to Sir Philip, this was going to be a delicate one. She was apparently on the edge of a lot of delicate places, and a push in the wrong direction could ruin everything. "Are you two ready?" Sir Philip asks as he emerges from beneath General Kronos for a moment. "Sir." "Yes, sir," Harriet says as Herbert snaps off a salute and nods. "Very good, Miss Witchin is a delicate one. Be ready for anything," Sir Philip says before slouching back into General Kronos. The man opens the door. "Oh, well, hello. I didn't think they had humans as old as you out of cruel space." "Wow. What's it like to be in zero gravity when you're so old?" the felly asks, apparently having enough energy for 3 women rather than just one. "Relaxing, my old joints don't ache half as much. Didn't need a cane, and since everyone was eating the same soft things, I never had to bother with my dentures. And the sponge baths. Oh, those were so—" "Thank you, General. Perhaps you'd do well to get back on task. You requested to speak with Miss Wychin, one of the terrorists that attacked Lieutenant Commander Jeremiah Escobar Bridger and his pregnant wife," Sergeant Yoko remarks, and General Kronos blinks in confusion. "Oh, that's right, I did. Now, where is she? Why is there a kitty cat in this room? It could be dangerous for the poor girl with a terrorist around. What's security doing?" General Kronos asks as he walks up to Miss Witchin and begins to rub behind her ears, startling the feely into purring. "That's a good kitty. Bit bigger than most I've seen, but I know those ears anywhere. I used to have a cat myself. A big boy could barely fit in my lap. I raised him since he was so tiny he fit in my pocket, and I'd spend entire meetings with the kitten in there. Little guy loved to nap and was so quiet when he did so. Once I almost forgot him there and accidentally—" "Sir?" Private Stream interrupts with a pained look on his face. "In the hamper. Billy? What's wrong, Billy?" "You're petting the terrorist, sir," Sergeant Yoko states as William looks like he's in the process of being strangled. I am? General Kronos asks before taking off his glasses and fumbling. Darn eyes, why'd I have to go near and far-sighted? You can't be both near and far-sighted, sir. You simply have poor eyesight, Private Stream remarks, holding out a thick pair of glasses. General Kronos slips them on, and his eyes are enormously magnified, and he examines Miss Witchen closely. Billy? Is this cat a woman, or is this woman a cat? General Kronos asks. I evolved from one Mr. Old Human? Wiccan asks with a flutter of her eyes. Really? Wait! Are the cats trying to— No, that's silly. I need to go lie down, General Kronos says, before putting his regular glasses on over the bottle lenses over his eyes and hobbling out of the room before anyone can say anything. Should I go after him? Private Stream asks. It would be best if we were to actually question the prisoner, Sergeant Yoko remarks, and Stream just looks really, really lost. So how's he about like that? I thought you were all really, really powerful and skilled soldiers here. Oh, is he one of those really old and respected soldiers, and you some child prodigy that's somehow skilled enough to be on board? And what about you, miss? You're clearly a tretin— Witchen is cut off with a finger to her lips from Sergeant Yoko. Ma'am, we have a few questions for you. Not if you understand, she asks, and the Fairy nods ferociously. Now. What in tarnation? General Kronos exclaims before the door opens to a gigantic monkey woman that Herbert vaguely recognizes from Defenestration Nation. The split-tailed monkey woman in a suit throws out her arm and dramatically points. Hold it right there. My client is still under the protection of centrist law, the red-furred monkey woman declares. As per our agreements with the Undaunted, citizens in good standing are required a lawyer to represent them, and I, Coco Mill, attorney at law, have been sent to do so. Miss Witchen here is a citizen in good standing despite being caught with a massive gang of violent criminals attempting to murder an undaunted commanding officer? Sergeant Yoko asks in a tone dripping with disbelief. What? Goddess, no! Last thing I need to do is bring discord between my family and the new species my sister married into. Besides, she said humans are almost universally hunks. That guy who throat-punched me was pretty hot for someone doing a decent job of killing me. I couldn't turn a claw against all that man. I mean, it'd be like ruining artwork. Anyway, those slithery witches didn't say a damn thing about this stuff when they hired me on as a bodyguard. Far as I'm concerned, they broke our damn deal, so I'll roll on them all day and all night if any of them manage to survive. I'm thinking they didn't. That dude took Silria's head off like he didn't exactly have a lot of mercy saved up. I'm shocked he saved me. Guess I was looking pretty pitiful at the time, huh? Witchen says very quickly and happily. You should stop answering questions, the monkey lawyer announces. How do you know better again? Private Stream asks. Don't answer that, Coco orders Witchen. My sister's in the EFL. I thought I was being bribed to fight a threat. Fighting humans? No way! I got it on video how bad an idea that is, Witchen chimes out. What kind of video? Sergeant Yoko asks. Don't answer that either. Your personal effects are— Coco begins before Witchen almost vibrates out of her chair in excitement. The one where the human in the red coat fights the two really, really, really nasty Axiom witches, and the dead walk like blargy, and then he makes giant bone snakes come out of the ground, and then there's a second one that's throwing lighting around like toy, but she can't hit him, and the only time she does, he just takes it like it doesn't even matter, and— Witchen takes a deep breath, and then keeps going. When the crazy Lopin lady cuts so deep into the ground that it freaking splits in half, he just stomps it back down and acts like all he was doing was just getting into the proper groove on in an Axiom fight, and it was just so cool, you know. You have an impressive, albeit inconsistent, lung capacity, Private Stream remarks after a few moments. Indeed, Sergeant Yoko replies. From what I understand, you have a littermate in the EFL in particular stationed as chief engineer on the EFL Tiger? Mabby Smith, I believe. Don't answer that. Yep, Witchen agrees. Mabby's awesome. She snagged a monster of a man. Oh man, and he did that whole pew-pew. I'm better than you Axiom awesomeness on the same night that the rest of the men and some friends they called in took over an entire planet by wiping out all the freaking competition. I mean, sweet-tailed goddesses. That's a lot of power. Ma'am, you need to stop. Coco begins only for Witchen to power on. Anyways, I really honestly didn't know I was going up against humans, but I don't really know anything. I'm just a weapons repair girl and a swordplay enthusiast. I do a bit of small-time merc work on the side, but that's only when things are really, really slow, and you wish the roof would come down so you'd have something to do, you know? Why are you being so cooperative? Sergeant Yoko asks. I want to know that too. This is absurd, Coco protests. I want in. That absolute unit of a man saw an army coming at him, turned its biggest, baddest bitch to his side, and went on an absolute massacre. I want that so you're getting my complete cooperation. Witchin explains, and there's a pause. The final decision is of course up to Jerry, but we'll gladly put you in contact with them if you tell us everything you know about the gangsters and criminals that recruited you. Don't, Coco begins. Gladly. What do you want to know? Wiccan states, and Coco groans into her furry hand. All right, all of you to the other side of the room. Client-attorney confidentiality? Go, go, go! Coco waves them back and then brings Witchin to the distant corner and begins whispering to her. Herbert and Harriet glance at each other, unsure of where exactly to go as none of this was anything they expected. Then Coco lets out a triumphant shout and comes back to the table with Witchin and a grin. All right, humans. We're willing to make a legal agreement as stated here. Coco states, bringing out a small holo projector that shows a series of digital writing that flashes by quickly. The gist of it is that in return for both the minor concessions detailed herein, you will get a full legal disclosure of her knowledge of these criminals that accosted her. Agreed? Sergeant Yoko takes the proffered projector and begins reading through with a frown. I'll be sending this to our legal department for review. You should have our answer within a few short hours. This is not the legal department? This is interrogation, where we process captured enemy combatants for information. However, if Miss Witchin insists on cooperation, then this will go along swimmingly. Private stream notes. Ha ha! Success! Another job well done, Coco. You've done it again! The lawyer announces, and Wykin starts giggling as both undercover agents resist goggling at the monkey woman who retrieves an entire bushel of pastel-colored bananas from between her breasts and quickly starts in on a celebratory snack. If you'll excuse us for a minute, Sergeant Yoko asks, and there's some nods prompting them both to leave the room. Come back shortly, cutie pie. You look like you could use a hefty mama to baby you! Coco coos after Herbert, who resists outright sprinting out. I told you to prepare for the unexpected, to be ready for anything, Sir Philip says a few moments after the door closes. Sir? The galaxy's most talkative and agreeable prisoner answering every question we could ask, and many we haven't, being suddenly defended by a bombastic monkey woman in a suit who, after a short conversation, pulls a bushel of pink and purple bananas out of her tits and begins chowing down while declaring it another job well done, before hitting on me with all the subtlety of a drunken jackass in a wet t-shirt competition, is so far beyond the word unexpected that it can only qualify as insane. I did say to be ready for anything, Sir Philip responds. Sir, with all due respect, you're an asshole. Harriet responds, and the old spy smiles. With little due respect, you two require so much more training and practical experience that I'd barely qualify you on the level of babies at this point. It is my fervent hope to train you both up to at least the capacity of toddlers before I return home to my justified and much-needed retirement. I should be sipping mixed drinks and finishing my memoirs, not babysitting. So it would behoove you both to stop being babies. Sir, you're trying to pack in decades upon decades of experience, training, and know-how into less than a year, Herbert protests. All the more reason for you two to pay more attention and try harder. These women were nearly endlessly distracted by your sex and appearance. Therefore, they didn't notice the many mistakes Private Stream and Sergeant Yoko made. These are effectively training missions. If you make mistakes on the field like you did in that room, then lives will be lost, wars will begin, and atrocities will be committed. A properly placed field agent is a sword and shield against chaos, a dagger into the heart of tyrants and the eyes of the righteous upon the designs of the wicked. You must be better. The Bounty Hunters. Excuse me? A voice says partway through their dessert. Cindy and Gregory looks over to see the waitress look at them somewhat nervously. May we help you? Cindy asks. She had been slowly nibbling through her dessert and enjoying the cool, fruity treat. something that Gregory clearly enjoyed, as well as he was eating a fair amount as well. Which was something of a relief to her. Humans weren't so much picky as they were choosy. A picky eater refuses to eat what they don't like. A choosy one knows what they like and always go for that instead. Unfortunately, humans like absurd doses of sodium chloride and numerous chemical weapons on their foods. Thankfully, some areas like meats, fruits, and other things that can be devoured raw are a fair bet. They also like their sweets and tend to take them by the bucket. There is an additional bottle of Bruneval wine at table 14 that has been set aside for you both. If it would please you, madam and sir, to relocate and we can open the vintage for your drinking pleasure. That would be in the more isolated parts of the establishment. Well out of view to casual guests, Gregory notes as Pukey starts going through the tactical situation. Things are going well, but the wine is clearly bait. But is it bait to look for an excuse to attack by claiming insult or a lure into a trap? If all else fails, he can do this casino what he did to the last one. He's even got the plasma sword to do it. Shall we? Cindy asks, and he smiles. It appears that outside forces seek to make decisions for us. I am by your side either way, Gregory states grandly, and Cindy titters. We'll replace your dessert at the table on the house, the waitress says graciously as she glances from Gregory to the case. Clearly, she not only knows what's in it, but what can be done with it. Cindy stands up and quickly finds Gregory's hand in hers as he also picks up the case, and they follow the waitress into the more secluded part of the restaurant. At table 14, there is the bottle of wine and flutes to drink it with as fresh copies of their dessert arrive just before they do. There are 6 places at the table, and Gregory makes certain to sit with Cindy by his side. He gives her a quick 2 squeezes to let her know he smells danger. He takes the first bite of his dessert, and Cindy feeds him a spoonful of hers. Just as good as what we left, he assures her, and she smiles in relief. You don't have to worry about poison. There are very few things on this station that would actually bring you harm, the ones for the Canador perhaps, but it's uncertain. A nearby voice says, and Pukey's eyes narrow as he spots a small impression in the cushioning of a nearby chair. I hope to God you're wealthy enough for the invisible clothing and not naked, madam, Pukey remarks to the cloaken woman. Already? I matched my axiom to the background. How did you find me so quickly? The voice was hint enough. After that, it was narrowing things down, Pukey remarks. May I ask why we're having this little meeting? Straight to the point. You're all business, aren't you? My business is violence, tactics, and strategy. Failing any of the 3 will get myself, my men, or someone I actually care about hurt. Pukey answers tartly as he reaches out for the blue wine and uncorks it with his thumb, aided by a touch of axiom. He then catches the cork and takes a deep sniff with his sense of smell enhanced. Clean as well, you are on the up and up. He pours both himself and Cindy a flute before forcing the cork back in with his fingers and raising his own glass as a toast to their invisible dinner guest. My, you and your men are everything our research claims you to be. I just want a conversation, perhaps even some business opportunities. The cloaken states, and Pukey sighs. Is something the matter? I'm trying to treat my wife to a wonderful night, just for her. I don't mind, darling. She's not being rude, and she's offered a gift and apology. Yes, but this is your night. There shouldn't be anything but what you want for at least one night, Gregory remarks, and Cindy sighs in satisfaction. Don't worry, darling. I've had the beginning and the middle. A little blip before the ending I've been promised won't even be remembered. Cindy answers, and Gregory gives her a kiss on top of her head before turning his gaze to lock eyes with the invisible guest. You want to talk? Let's talk, Pukey says, and there's the sound of a throat clearing. All right, then. It's simple enough. I don't want my casinos damaged, nor the businesses under my protection, which is this entire sector. Keep your boys on a leash, and I'll do the same. I'm in the business of business, and pointless pissing contests with random mercenaries with a penchant for overwhelming force and meticulous plans is not a fight that me or my associates walk away from unbloodied. I see, so generally a non-aggression pact? Pukey asks, and there's no answer for a moment as he tries to adjust just how he perceives things in the axiom. Giving up trying with his organic eye, he starts going through the filters in his cybernetic one. Infrared, ultraviolet, and several other bandwidths aren't showing him anything. Oh, I see, you can only see the impact I make. I can hear you as well. You're being very, very still to not tip me off, he remarks before finally giving up and focusing in his ears. He mentally regulates it to something out of a comic book. and the world around him contorts as a new layer to his hearing opens up. There we are. Or rather, there you are. Crossed legs, mouth slightly agape, long head feathers braided together with numerous bits of jewelry tied in, Gregory remarks as the noise of the restaurant outlines the woman with the now dropping jaw. How? Your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them. He quotes for the sake of confusion. Did you know on the Dauntless, currently the political capital of the Undaunted, that the guards have made sport of catching and quite literally throwing out cloaken spies? Apparently they compete for sheer distance in several leagues, singular and team, axiom-enhanced and non-enhanced. Now that everything is nice and muddied, Pukey smiles to himself and then withdraws a flask from his coat. The few stills on the chain breaker were not examples of good booze. They were, however, powerful alcohol-refining plants. They had all they needed for almost any kind of flaming weapon, or to up the alcohol content of the otherwise piss-poor drinks. This flask was filled with the latter and was nearly tasteless. Any stronger and it would count as medical grade. He pours only a half finger in and swirls around the drink before tucking away the flask. The clear liquid has a borderline haze surrounding it, and it refuses to dissolute into the wine properly, leaving tiny clear bubbles of high-proof alcohol in the otherwise mildly dry blue drink. He grins as the owner he's talking to ruffles through her outfit and pulls out a scanner. This next bit should be entertaining. He can kind of make out the expressions on her face, and hopefully they match up closely enough to humans to tell. He'll have to ask Franklin if there's anything odd in the species he should know about. It's just alcohol, he remarks as the device unfolds and he reads the holographic display backwards as Cindy giggles. She can't see the expression the cloaken is making, but she can imagine it. There's enough in there to kill both myself and your wife, the invisible woman states blankly. Hence why I'm the only one drinking this, Pukey remarks as he slowly drinks it down and licks his lips. Thankfully, we've got a formula that tends to enhance what it's added to rather than making a mess out of it. That stuff is incredibly flammable, the cloaken says, and Pukey grins as he refills the flute halfway, adds a touch of the alcohol, then covers the top with his palm and shakes it up. A tiny bit of axiom sparks the drink to catch on fire. He then salutes her with the flaming drink and then throws it back, flame and all. He holds his breath and keeps his mouth completely closed to snuff out the fire before grinning. You're insane, the cloaken says, and he snorts in amusement. Let's not pretend that all of us don't have something that will baffle and possibly terrify the others, Pukey says with a slight chuckle. So just to make things clear, should we be attacked and find out that the person we've defended ourselves against is both someone we can make money on and is someone you've got under a paycheck or are collecting pay from? That depends on whom and just what you had to defend yourself against. If it's your provoking them to give you an excuse, and it's one of my inner circle, then I will blow your ship to shrapnel. You hire people that stupid? I hire talent. Oftentimes, talent comes with a reputation, she says, and Pukey grins. Well, that's one bet I've won. Bike was so certain we had some competition. He muses with a distinctly smug air. You do. There are roughly 14 different groups that are trying to bait in or outright kidnap criminals with bounties. And how do my men and myself compare? Relatively unknown, you're new to the game, but what is known about you is actually rather scary. I suggest you calm down a little, or at least take more time before taking bounties unless you want a black bounty in your crew, she says, and Pukey nods. I'll take that as friendly advice. Thank you, Pukey says with a nod. I hope you're as smart as you seem. I've had conversations like this several times in the past 2 months alone. At least 2 of the 5 teams decided to push and push until I had to push back, she remarks. Understandable. It was the humans stationed here that discovered the corpses. Oh, and no doubt you heard them telling horror stories about it for months straight, and even now you can find them with looks of utter despair in their eyes, Pukey says and rolls his eyes. Something like that. Although, to be frank, after the first few times they cleaned up a dead body, they grew very numb to it. We're adaptive. Now, not to be rude, but unless you have more, I'd like to get to more pleasant topics with my wife here. It's so very odd that you act as if it's your duty to protect her and not the other way around. The rumors of your race having things backwards between men and women are apparently true, much like your absurd poison resistance. There had been a scare when those Tret-looking boys decided to start buying all sorts of toxic ingredients from the hivers. I believe it. So is there anything you especially want or... So eager to pamper your wife, I'm married but interested. If only Jules was so smitten. It's because they don't expect it. It's a little pattern I've overheard in their conversations. Apparently the girls back in Cruel Space are so spoiled for choice that they get picky, Cindy remarks. Really? Well, that's their loss then. Speaking of loss, spending much more time here will be a loss of revenue on my part. Enjoy the rest of your evening, you two and Captain Schmidt. Yes? Should we send you information on girls that owe a debt to our casino and refuse to pay, would you be willing to hunt them down? I'm afraid my crew and I want to be able to jump into the more legal parts of the galaxy at will. If someone's pulling a runner, then put up an official bounty. It shouldn't be hard to push it through. Ah, obeying the letter of the law so you can have fun mocking the spirit. I can respect that. Again, enjoy the rest of the evening, she says before vanishing entirely from Pukey's senses. He relaxes with a smile. Is everything all right? Cindy asks, and he nods even as he feels her fade back in some few steps away. Of course, our gracious host over there has been most welcoming. We don't have to worry, he says, gesturing towards the invisible woman that hasn't fooled him in the slightest. How does he do that? He hears her mutter to herself as she walks away, glancing over her shoulder at him, undoubtedly concerned. He merely toasts her with another flute of mixed alcohol.